Oops, wait, I don't have to shut this one.
Experience them yet, but we
Oh,
can.
sorry, guys. Hold on a second.
Sometimes
When I
like
do things differently, it's a little more of a problem. Don't trust me. I don't have to shut this. All right, Alina, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Okay, guys. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jenna Blackert, and this is the How Hustle Morning Show. I'm usually joined with the beautiful Lianka Reyna, but she is off flying to Vegas for the weekend. She will be back on Tuesday. Today, we are talking with Alina Nazari, who we met at Blocks, and she is absolutely phenomenal. You are going to love this conversation. We already got in the chat, missing Lianka. Well, thanks, guys. But you have us. Um, Today, we're talking about not just gut health, but also I'd like to integrate it with some brain health. And what I've found when in my early days working as a nutritionist, that a lot of people who have gut issues also have a very noisy mind. So I would like to intertwine that a little bit as we in this audience are very much into personal development. And so it's just an honor and a joy that she's here. And I'm just so excited to dive into this conversation. So, Alina, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. I know that you got started in this work because of your mother. Do you
Yeah,
want to start and share a little bit about your background and the story with her?
sure. I lost my mom to stomach cancer when she was just 46 years old and I was 10 years old. And I always questioned why this happened to her so young. And I never really got straight answers. I was told things like she was always anemic and she didn't really have good health. And so those things didn't really make sense to me. I struggled with so many gut issues through my childhood and my teenage years, things like eczema, seasonal allergies, food sensitivities, just weight gain, bloating, mood irritability. And I didn't know that all of these things are tied back to your gut. I was given a steroid cream to use for my eczema. I was told it was a skin issue. It's not. I was given
Mhm.
things to take for my constipation that I struggled with. And I was told that some people just don't have regular bowel movements and that's okay. Hint, it's not okay. You should be having
Wow.
regular bowel movements. And so all of these things that I didn't really question growing up, as most people don't because we don't realize it's an issue, started to turn after I had my second son, and he was struggling with constipation and had eczema. And I did not want to give him anything synthetic. I wanted to figure out what was going on in his gut. So he was really my push in becoming a functional practitioner to figure out how can I test my kids to know what's going on with them because I'm kind of sick of these general answers and not finding out what's going on in our bodies and our kids' bodies. And so once my education began, I started uncovering more truths about gut health and then started realizing that when we have an imbalance of bad bacteria in the gut, they're called opportunistic bacteria or gram-negative bacteria, it's actually going to lower stomach acid and can lead to anemia. If left untreated, this can eventually develop into gastric and stomach cancers. And so the lights started lining up for this is what must have happened with my mom because all the things that I was told about her, she was anemic, she just had food sensitivities, she never had a good diet, she always felt unwell, clicked that she just had an imbalance of bad bacteria and eventually they will take host and it will develop into these autoimmune disorders or cancers, which we're seeing a rise of in today. And so when I saw that, everything just kind of aligned, and I realized this is my purpose in life. I have to make sure that no one goes through what I went through as a kid, losing my mom so young, and also parents being able to know what's going on in their bodies to live a long, full life, and also in their kids' bodies. And it just became this mission of happy belly, happy life. And
Yeah.
we have to know that everything starts in the gut. And that's really where Go Happy Belly came from, and my mission and my story of why I'm so driven to bring this message out to the masses.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in these conversations, we deal a lot with the whole person, right? Yeah, from like entities and parasites to, the gut, and gut instincts. And
Yeah.
I really, really have been doing this work and having so many conversations have found that the gut health and your gut tuition is highly connected.
Yeah.
I wanted to, I know this is probably outside your box a little bit, but I wanted to ask you about that. Like, what have you found in healing your son's gut health and your other clients? Have they just felt more congruent and happier with life?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when we test the gut, so I always do it's called a GI map stool test. This is the same test that I did on myself a few years ago to figure out what was going on with my gut. And sure enough, I had an overgrowth of opportunistic bacteria, one of which was H. pylori. And so I always test the gut microbiome for every person that I work with. And they always feel a sense of relief because when that lab report comes back, I can see what's going on in their gut, and I say, you're probably struggling with this, right? Because I see this parasite or bacteria or this overgrowth or candida or something that's going on, and they feel the sense of relief. They finally have an answer, and they're like, yes, that's exactly what I've been feeling. Those are the exact symptoms that I have. Whereas they're probably going to a GI specialist and getting general answers that are just leaving them more confused, more overwhelmed, and not really giving them the answers that they're seeking. So it's very important to know what's going on in your gut and how that relates to your brain health, your mood health. Why are you so irritable? Why are you not sleeping well at nights? Why do you feel impatient? Or is your kid struggling to concentrate? All of these things are tied back to the health of your gut microbiome.
Yeah, let's dive deeper into that. Do you know some studies that are very like do you know any studies that are like connected in that way? Like I don't
Yeah,
know. I just know that in working with clients, it was like they became happier in life when
yeah.
and that's not just is because of there's no more disruption with some of the chronic problems that people had, but it's also that they just became clearer and more congruent in their entire life.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So those opportunistic bacteria like H. pylori or even parasites feed off of sugar. They like the
Huh.
simple carbs. And your brain also likes the sugar and simple carbs because it's a quick dopamine hit. Dopamine is that happy hormone. And so
Hmm.
when we are in times of stress, and it could be stress due to outside factors, it might be something going on with family, friends, environmental factors. It could be a environmental stress on the body, a mental stress, or it might just be an overgrowth of that bacteria in the gut. Your brain is searching for that quick happy response. And so this is why sugar cravings are so strong,
Mhm.
especially when we have an overgrowth of that bacteria. Some people even report that when they're trying to kill off that bacteria, those cravings are even stronger because they're trying to survive. They want to intensify those cravings, so you give in and feed them so that they can continue surviving. We see this all the time, and I always tell them push through it because this is your body's way of getting rid of those toxins and that
Yeah.
bacteria. But your brain is always searching for that happiness. It's about figuring out another way to give it that happy hormone that it's searching for instead of that sugar, which is sugar is
Uh-huh.
fine. Don't get me
No,
wrong.
that's
We eat
great.
sugar in my house. My kids eat
Yeah.
sugar. But it's when you have those cravings and you're trying to figure out, why am I don't even want these cookies. Why did I just reach for them? I didn't even want ice cream. Why did I just finish half this tub? Those are things that you really have to look back and question. Could there be an imbalance going on?
Yeah, absolutely. That I find so let's talk about candida for a minute. I know that, I used to have my nutritionist acupuncturist together that would just look at my tongue and tell me, okay, your tongue is swollen and coated, and you
Yeah.
have candida. Basically, that is English word for it. They call it a little bit different in Chinese medicine. And that was one of my big things that when I got rid of it and really just said no, no more sugar to candida, it was really the biggest thing that it got so that I started to that was at the same time that I was really working on how to clear my noisy mind.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they both went away at the same time, which made me feel like some of the gut parasites are also parasites that are just occupying our entire chaotic mind and chaotic body.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about candida and how we can change our daily habits with ease, right, to get rid of some of the candida. I know that people who crave sugar in the morning and last thing at night comes 8 p.m. and they've just got to have cereal or sugary
Yeah.
Cheerios or something like that, then they are, among that crowd. Can we talk a little bit about candida? And I want to ask, is candida that is the bad bacteria that you're speaking of? Okay,
Exactly. Candida
great.
is a fungus. And so it's a yeast actually, but it's in the same category of fungi and yeast. And so when someone does have a candida overgrowth, we'll almost always see a white coating on the tongue. This is called biofilm on the tongue. And this is biofilm is the protector of the bad bacteria. And so if someone has a white coating on their tongue, if they have rings around their armpits, they have
Mhm.
either darkening around their armpits or they have kind of a red line. We will almost always notice that toenail fungus is also another really great indication of candida overgrowth in the body. Unexplained rashes, athlete's foot, rashes in the groin area, all of these things are a sign of a yeast overgrowth in the body. Anything foul smelling on the skin. And in women, we see a lot of UTIs that are reoccurring as well. So candida are pretty resilient. We'll see often that someone will treat an overgrowth with an antibiotic and then it'll almost always grow back. And so it's really not about that antibiotic. It's about treating your gut and trying to heal your gut instead of just giving it something topical. The analogy I always give is it's giving treating it topically is kind of like throwing fertilizer at your garden that's overgrowing with weeds. It's not going to do much. It might help a little bit, but those weeds are pretty strong and resilient. They're going to find a way to crawl out and overgrow. You have to first kill off those weeds and then work on replenishing your garden and strengthening your garden, or those weeds will just grow right back. And that's exactly what goes on in the gut.
Wow. I didn't know that you had rashes and things like that. I'm gonna, but I know my daughter eats a lot of sugar. I'm gonna pay
Well,
attention to that a little bit more.
kids also have a different metabolism and they're also able to burn off sugar much more quickly than we can. I mean, my kids
Yeah.
can put
Move.
away, or even kids in general can put away like a whole bowl of fruit and maybe even have some ice cream after and nothing really, they might not have any effects of it. Whereas a grown-up might have a few strawberries and they're like, wow, that was a lot of sugar.
Mhm.
I noticed that happened to me. I'm a lot more sensitive to sugar. So certain fruits I can only have a small amount of because it's just too much sugar for me. These are just signs of aging. It's just signs of your metabolism growing down. It's signs of your gut just changing. Your gut is always changing. So it's not something that you can work on healing one time and you're like, I did it. I did the probiotics. I cleaned the garden. You always have to maintain that garden because those weeds will always grow back if you stop tending to it. So same thing with your gut.
hmm So let's talk about what actions are the best actions to take. I know there's a good probiotics that is like the first thing that people probably need to add. But would you say both a prebiotic and a probiotic?
Yeah, so the prebiotic is the food for the probiotic.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of them that have a prebiotic and a probiotic in them. There are also separate supplements you can take also, but both are very important. Um, Taking a probiotic and a prebiotic are very important, but you also want to make sure that you're getting a variety of food. So your body creates probiotics from the different fiber strains found in foods. You want to make sure that you and your kids are eating plenty of organic produce, fruits and vegetables, different wild caught seafood, grass-fed beef. You're giving your kids pasture-raised eggs and all of these things. Again, within diet, some people have different diets. Some people are vegetarian, pescatarian, etc. But within your diet and things that you like to do, make sure that you have that variation because that is how your body creates probiotics. Your body always wants to make its own probiotics. It wants to make its own collagen. So supplements are great. I recommend them, but always keep in mind they are a supplement to the actual nutrition and vitamins going on in your body. So they're not a replacement, they're just a supplement. People always confuse that.
Yeah. My dad used to say you have to have the apple because it has soluble fiber, but then you also have to have like the grains and the wheat because like those together, like plus water and other things will make you poop.
Yeah.
And it is that like that soluble fiber and the unsoluble fiber together that's kind of a good example. Like the apple is a like prebiotic, but those two together don't isn't that like a pre and probiotic kind of activation? Or how what
Yeah.
would you say would be the
It-
foods for a prebiotic and what would be the probiotics are simply when your gut is happy, it just keeps creating them, right? To talk to me about that.
Actually, no, it
Okay.
doesn't. So,
Okay, good.
probiotics are actually called temporary colonizers. And what this means is that they don't just live in your gut, they don't permanently colonize. You always have to be feeding those probiotics. So, you have to make it a hospitable environment for them to be able to hang on a little bit longer, but they're always going to die off. They turn into what's called postbiotics, which just um, gets eliminated with your bowel movements. So prebiotics are found in things like onions, garlic, carrots. A lot of those garnishes that we use are very heavy and high in prebiotics. Probiotics are found in the other organic produce that we buy. So the bell peppers, the dark leafy greens, the artichokes, the arugula, even the poultry that you're eating, the grass-fed beef, all of these things, your body's going to create probiotics. And so when I talk to my kids, another part of getting your family to eat healthier is just talking to your kids about why we need to eat this, just like your dad did. I mean, that's something that we're so far removed from. I feel like just talking about our food and why certain things are
I agree.
important. We're always on the go. We kind of just scarf down something, and feed our kids something. And we have so many things going on. And I get it. My kids do as well. But I really make sure to tell them, hey, you have to finish your bell peppers. Those are not only probiotics, but also are high in vitamin C, for example. And we really need vitamin C to kill off those germs, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, I get it. And there's going to be pushback with kids. I mean, don't get me wrong. My
Yeah.
kids don't love eating a lot of the things. Like my 6-year-old looks at salmon like it's the poison I'm giving him, right? But I talk to them about how the omegas are really good for your brain. It's very
Mhm.
important. But again, they're kids. There's pushback. Just going back to that education, just like your dad did, because even if there's pushback from your kids, they will remember it 20, 30 years later. They'll do a podcast and say, my dad taught me all about this, and this is what he used to say. And so, even though your kids might give you that pushback, trust me, some of it is being absorbed, and they might. My kids tell me all the time, they're like, I wish you were doing a different job. We have to hear about nutrition.
I
And,
know.
but
I
sometimes I'll see
stopped
them.
talking about it with my family
Yeah,
because and my husband is totally on the nutrition, bandwagon with me this year. Had
yeah,
not been in the past, but now he had a health scare and he's 100% on board, right?
yeah.
So I'm now trying to get, I only have one at home still, so I'm trying to get her to come along with us, right? And she's given it a shot. Let's talk about what happens if like somebody is just chronically experiencing constipation, bloating, and they just, but they do eat a relatively healthy diet. Where would be the first steps for them to start?
Yeah, I love going back to a food journal because that
Mhm.
really shows us you forget the things that you eat, but keeping a food journal helps you connect the dots. And that was really something that I did in my healing journey was going to a food journal because I was trying so many different diets and I wasn't getting the answers that I wanted. I would read a book and say, okay, I'm going to try this diet, or I would listen to a podcast and say, okay, I'm going to try this one. And it wasn't working until I kept a food journal. If you're
Mhm.
struggling with constipation, keeping a food journal can allow you to go back and say, oh, on this day, it looks like I had normal bowel movements for 3 days. What was I doing? Maybe you were not eating 3 hours before bedtime, 5 hours before bedtime. Maybe you woke up and had a glass of water those mornings and you don't realize. When you keep a food journal, this allows you to connect the dots. When someone is struggling with constipation, your body, we just need to lubricate the digestive system. And most people don't drink enough water. We also have really stepped away from having water-based and liquid-based foods. Think of how much we used to drink or eat soups growing up, or your grandma or grandparents used to make soups for you growing up. We've really distanced ourselves from those liquid-based meals. That's going to contribute to constipation as well as our food sensitivities. You might be eating a food that is healthy and you're doing all the right things, but your body doesn't like nightshades, for example, and that's contributing to constipation, or your body doesn't like dairy and maybe you don't feel anything, but it's contributing to constipation. So I would say keep a food journal and just try to connect the dots and try to figure out, okay, my body actually really likes it when I take a step back and eat a light dinner, or I have a warm glass of water in the morning, I seem to have a bowel movement. And so that's been helping me, whatever it is that's working for you, which both of those tips can be true for everyone, FYI.
Yeah.
Um, but you're trying to see what
But
your body agrees with and what it's telling you.
yeah. And I would add with that journal to put your stress levels in there.
Yeah.
Your mood, your stress, just a happy face or a very sad face or angry might be associated with it as well. What have you found in regards to stress related to the gut?
Yeah, that's
Here I
such a
ask.
great topic.
Yeah,
So
that's a big
anytime that we are
thing.
in a stress state, your body always prioritizes your survival. And so when you're in a stress state, your body thinks that it's gearing up for a fight or flight. It's going into attack. It goes back to that hunter-gatherer hardwiring of the brain. And so your body's going to tense up and it's going to slow down gut motility. It's going to increase or constipation, and you're going to have less frequent bowel movements because your body is just focusing on survival. It's focusing on we're about to be attacked or where there might be an animal or times of war. That is how our brain is hardwired. And so when we are stressed, it's actually going to increase constipation, decrease bowel movements. Also, anytime that I have a client who gives me certain complaints, like they have an acidic feeling, they have a lot of heartburn, they have a gnawing, burning feeling, I almost always know that they're in a stressful environment because chronic stress lowers stomach acid, and this is
Wow.
going to lead to poor digestion of food. It's also going to lead to poor digestion of minerals and different vitamins as well. So I almost always know that they're not able to absorb enough protein as their body would like, and they're not absorbing those supplements they're taking also. So
Mm.
stress has a huge impact on your gut and just your body, how it absorbs food also.
Yeah. Well, heartburn is to me very, very different than bloating, constipation. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and I do feel like it's even in a frequency world, it also has a kind of a different frequency of it. Let's talk a little bit about what would be the first thing somebody would do if they had heartburn. And you guys in the chat, I'm happy to ask any of your questions as well.
Yeah. So when someone has heartburn, they usually have too much acidity in the gut. And think of how we are such a caffeine driven society. And what does coffee do? It increases stomach acid even more. And so
Mhm.
we're waking up first thing in the morning. We're already in a stress state. We have too much stomach acid, and we're just chugging coffee as the first thing, which is going to add to that acidity. Combine that with other foods that we're eating, which are going to increase acidity. Dairy actually increases acidity in the gut, as does the things that we know, like the tomatoes, the spicy foods. But processed foods also add to the acidity in the gut. alcohol adds to the acidity in the gut. So all of these things are just um, acid just flowing around how it's not supposed to. Another thing that can happen is actually low stomach acid. So sometimes when someone has feelings of bloating, they have feelings of not being able to digest food or not feeling well, they have low fatigue, low energy. This is actually low stomach acid. Things that
Wow.
lower stomach acid are going to be stress, processed foods, not sleeping well, and food sensitivities, leaky gut. All of these things are going to lower stomach acid. So there are there are both that can happen. It's about paying attention to your symptoms. And again, that you can go back to that food journal and say, oh, hey, I ate these things and I felt really acidic. This is what was going on. And I had heartburn. I love using natural organic teas, supplements. I love aloe vera juice. That's one of
Really?
my favorite gut healing tools that
Love
was
that.
really important in my own gut healing journey was that aloe
Yeah.
vera juice.
I did that for a while and then it just effect. So I'm doing it. I guess
Yeah.
it did because my gut kind of, got back to normal. So that's kind of cool. I used to love aloe vera juice too. It just seemed like a little bit like it was kind of watery, kind of just
Yeah, I'm
funny that you bring
surprised
that
you
up.
love it actually. It's a very distinct flavor, but it's wonderful for the gut lining. So
I
if
put
you
a little
are having,
stevia in it.
oh, okay, maybe that's what I didn't do. I should try that. But if you are having heartburn, peppermint tea is always great. Chamomile, um, all of those things, those teas are really going to help you. I really wouldn't recommend taking an antacid. You can, but you just have to know that this is just a band-aid I'm putting on. Why did I have this feeling and where is it coming from? So it's really about that, not treating it in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a reminder for everybody that's on the chat with everything that goes on in the body. And Alina, you can correct me if you feel like I'm wrong, but everything can be shifted simply by just asking the body.
Yeah,
I really feel like you're like, okay, I've been, abusive. I've been only eating cheese for the last 2 days. Body, what do you recommend? Like, what do you ask for next? And I really feel that oftentimes if you're in touch, your body can be your guide.
yeah. Have you
Yeah.
ever tried the swaying method to see what your intuition tells you?
Oh yeah, like the pendulum.
You just stand with your feet flat on
Oh
the
yeah.
ground and
It's
just
muscle
close your
testing.
eyes and
Mhm.
ask your body a question. It might be, should I cut back on eating too much dairy? Do I have gut issues? Whatever question you have, and your body sways. And if it sways forward, it's a yes. And so that is your intuition telling you things that you already know, but we tend to ignore it because we want to listen to the answer that we want. We're like, oh, that ice cream is not so bad. The dairy is not doing that much harm. But we know
But
our intuition knows that your gut knows that actually it doesn't really agree with that. And so I think that's a fun trick that
well,
people
and it could mean it doesn't agree with it today because of everything else
exactly.
you had in the last week or something. But, you boogie along and you do well, and then all of a sudden you're able to eat the ice cream again, and you're
Yeah.
not eating it every single night, nor are you craving it every single night because that candida has gone away from the ask within a different kind of ask.
Yeah,
We
and
do
that's a
have a
great point. Is that your gut is always changing. It is always becoming stronger or weaker. It's just like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym for a month and you're like, yes, I
good point.
built that muscle, I feel leaner. I'm gonna stop going and I'm gonna continue with this muscle for the rest of my life. It doesn't work that way. You have to maintain and keep going to the gym. You have to keep tending to your gut, and it's always going to shift. There might be outside stressors. I lost my dad 3 years ago. And that was a really big stress in my life. My gut went back to being very weak because of the stress that I was carrying. And so just know that you're not going to always be in this great place of feeling great. There are life factors that come into play. There are outside factors that are going to affect your gut, and just know that that's okay. It's normal. Just a part of being a human being. But it is important to try to get back to healing as quickly as you can.
Yeah. Are you good if we take a few callers? And I have a few
Sure.
questions on the chat. So if you guys want to go ahead and raise your hand and ask your question, go ahead and raise your hand now. On the chat, I've got somebody says, what about somebody with diverticulitis who also has type 2 diabetes? Where would they start to heal?
Yeah, so this is non-medical advice, but we do see that in someone who does have diverticulitis and type 2 diabetes, actually keto and fasting can have a lot of benefits.
Mm,
The beta hydroxybutyrate that is found has a very synergistic relationship with ketones that your body produces when you do go into ketosis. So that can be a very healing tool for someone, especially with type 2 diabetes as well, which is an insulin and sugar issue. That being said, I'm definitely not saying it's easy to reverse that, but we do see a lot of positive effects and people being able to reverse their type 2 diabetes and kind of calm the colon down with keto
mm,
and fasting.
wow.
Always keep in mind that any diet or lifestyle you do is a tool. It's not something that I ever recommend you do forever. I don't recommend people do keto forever. I don't recommend you do long-term fasting forever. It's always a tool, but your body likes variation. Think of the gym. Are you just going to walk on the treadmill every single day to get stronger, to get that muscle that you want? No, you have to have some leg days, some rest days, some lunge days, some arm days, whatever it is. Same with your body. Maybe you're doing keto, but you want to have some higher carb days as well, healthy higher carbs, cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, all of those things. So think of them always kind of as tools in that variation that you're having. But yeah, BHB, the beta hydroxybutyrate, and ketones have a very great synergistic relationship. So I definitely recommend looking into keto and fasting.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about keto for a minute, and then I will take callers.
Sure.
Keto, yeah, keto. I find that there's like the healthy keto way, and there's the horrible, awful. I can't even watch you do keto way.
Yeah.
Mostly for their heart health. I see people eating like tons of bad grease,
Yeah.
bad meats, and it's not sourced, and it's not even healthy for them. Why don't you share where, if somebody is going to say, I would like to try keto,
Yeah.
where should they be looking for their meats? Where should they be looking for the vegetables, and what kind of vegetables? I just feel like this is kind of a topic that people are just like, I just need fat protein, and it's
Yeah.
not actually a healthy sourced way to do so.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when something does become trending and the larger companies see that there's profit in it, they'll almost always make products and try to get you to buy something and label it as heart healthy or keto or whatever it is. And please stay away from those processed foods. That is the opposite of why you're doing keto in the first place. You're doing keto to heal the body. Keto is not a weight loss tool, it's a healing tool. Your body will lose weight as a result of it healing. Remember, your body holds on to weight gain because there's just a dysbiosis going on, there's an imbalance going on, there's too much insulin or gut problems or both, or all of these things going on, hormonal imbalance. Keto is a healing tool, and as your body heals, it will lose weight. But we're not buying the keto processed foods, the breads. I've even seen, I think, Reese's keto cups. I've seen all, please don't buy any of
Gross.
those things. Stick to
Don't
stick to
buy
the,
any of those
yeah.
things.
I would rather you not even get into ketosis and eat real food than try to do keto that way. Um, you also want to know that keto works great with weight loss because your body's tapping into its fat stores. So people who are overdoing it on fat and they say things like keto didn't work for me, or I even gained weight on keto, or I didn't lose anything, they're consuming too much fat. I know it's fun to say, oh my God, I can eat all this cheese and sour cream and I'm going to lose weight. Not really. If you're giving your body enough fat, it's not going to tap into its fat stores. It doesn't need to. It's like your checking and savings account. If you have enough in your checking account, you don't need to tap into your savings. You're only going to tap into your savings if you absolutely need to. So, same with keto. Just keep that in mind. Don't overdo it on the fats. That being said, stick to the grass-fed beef if you can, within budget. I always say within budget. The best is always going to be organic grass-fed beef. We can't always afford that. Try to stick to grass-fed at least. Seafood, try to buy wild caught if you can. Um, Chicken, always organic. Chicken is unfortunately so mass produced that that's one that you always want to buy organic. That's kind of one that I don't really, if it's not organic, I don't really buy it. But again, within budget, everyone does the best they can. Fruits and vegetables, the EWG's Dirty Dozen is a really great resource because they will always tell you kind of what's going on seasonally and what has the highest glyphosate levels, what is okay to buy non-organic at that time, and what is that you have to buy organic. So that's a great resource to use. Things that I always buy organic are anything that has a fuzz on it or berries, I always buy organic. Anything that you're going to be consuming that glyphosate, things like bananas, avocados, onions, maybe those are more okay to not do organic, within budget. So, but that's a great resource. Stick to the whole foods. Don't buy the keto cereals. I know it's tempting and you're like, I can see keto cereal and keto this and be in ketosis. You're probably not going to get into ketosis because it'll cause inflammation in the body. Inflammation will never get you into ketosis, unfortunately. So just keep that in mind. Stick to the whole foods.
Great. Manisha on the chat said, fatigue is something I am dealing with. I have a pouch in the small intestines and have had a total colonoscopy or I don't
Lectomy
know. Yeah. Nearly 30 years. Oh, you can read.
and a
I don't even know
splenectomy.
what these words are. So that's appendicite, splenocytis. Is that when they take the spleen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Any advice? I eat organic and wild caught and grass fed. Am in London. Thank you. Aloe vera juice I do take.
Yeah, I'm glad you take the aloe vera juice. That's a really complicated one that I will say I don't have much advice for you for, just because it's a very complicated health issue, and I never want to answer something that I don't feel comfortable giving. I always want to make sure that I'm giving you the right response. So, I don't have a response for you there, but if you want to connect with Jen offline, she can send me the question and I can look further into it and try to get you some answers that way. But it wouldn't be something that I know right now. I'm sorry.
Cool. Thank you. I have so many questions for you now that things came up because I want to talk to you about artificial sugars and all kinds of things. But let's take a caller and then we'll go back into this.
Sure.
Joe, you're up if you're there. Yes.
Hi, Elena. I'm going to
Hi.
go something that seems probably going to seem far-fetched to most people, but I do have a nerve disorder
Okay.
related to a vitamin A deficiency, which I know is pretty standard as you get older. Is that related to any of this, and what can I do with it that's inexpensive? That's a big one for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, well, what other things are going on with you? Is Joe still on the line? Okay. What other things are going on with you, Joe? Do you have any other issues? Infrequent bowel movements? Do you have a burping, belching, bloating? Do you have fatigue, poor sleep at night? Are there other things that are going on that can signal a gut issue? I mean, they're always tied together. So anytime your body is not able to properly absorb a vitamin or nutrient, it's because there's some sort of dysbiosis going on in the gut, an imbalance in the gut.
All of
And
those, all of those are off and on.
all of those. Are you taking any supplements? Are you taking a vitamin A supplement or anything else to heal the gut?
Mostly what I'm doing is using electrolyte replacements, but I haven't got any information on the ones that are really good.
Okay. Uh,
I'm managing with what I can find.
yeah. And the electrolytes that you're taking, do they have a stevia or a sweetener or anything in them, or are they unflavored?
How do I answer that? I don't know.
Well, yeah, so a lot of them on the market will have sugars and fake sugars going to what you just said, Jen, about the fake sugars. Um, and they can cause further issues in the gut. So I generally just buy an unflavored one for myself. It doesn't taste like anything, actually. I put it in my water, I put it in my coffee. It doesn't have any flavor to it. So if you're buying one that does have a flavor, then it's going to have some sort of sweetener,
That
usually
would
stevia.
be wonderful. Yes. Um, the biggest clue I know about the nerve disorder when it kicks in is I get one of those migraines that look like a stroke, and I'm down sometimes for days
Yeah.
with that migraine.
So this usually when someone has a migraine, it signals an electrolyte imbalance in the body, and it's usually very significant. Um, and the electrolytes that you're using might not have enough of the minerals that your body needs. So the electrolytes that we buy on the market have a certain percentage of magnesium, some potassium, some sodium, but your body may be potassium deficient and might need more potassium than that electrolyte is providing you, or it might need more magnesium, or it might need one of the other electrolytes. And so you'll need to, are you able to see a doctor and test your electrolyte levels to kind of see what those mineral imbalances show?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so from there, I would try to look at the milligrams of that certain mineral that you're consuming and make sure that it's sufficient for your body, because a migraine almost always is an indication of a severe electrolyte imbalance. Also, people who have heart arrhythmias, this can also signal an electrolyte imbalance also, and just a deficiency in minerals. So sometimes those off the market electrolytes are great. Sometimes they're not enough for what your body needs, and you need a different ratio. So it's just about figuring that out, and your doctor can help you test and figure that out.
It's kind of like just in the past 2 weeks, I found one that actually works great with the electrolytes, but the
Nice.
amount of sugar in it is like over
Uh,
the top. It's
yeah.
sweetened to make it taste good.
Yeah, I buy a liquid based one for myself. I don't buy the packets. The one that I buy, I mean, I don't want to sh show the brand, but it's just like this, or it's okay.
No,
Um,
no, show the brand. I
oh
think that that will support,
Yes, show
unless
the
you don't
brand,
want to
please.
for other reasons. But
no,
I
no,
was
I
actually going
I
to say,
always
let's
share.
get really specific on, right after this. So if that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I always
Really fine.
show everything that I use and talk about. And there's no affiliate link or money or anything tied to it. I just like to show things that I actually use. So I use Buoy every single day. It's unflavored. It's also liquid.
Uh-huh.
So
I've
you can
never
see
even
it says,
heard of
yeah,
that. I'm
unflavored.
gonna type it in the chat.
It's sourced from minerals found in the ocean. I really like it. I just squeeze it into my coffee every
Yes.
day. Um, and it doesn't taste like anything. So I can put it into different drinks throughout the day also.
Mhm.
If you have kids, this is a little bit harder and trickier. They're very specific. They like the flavor, so that's a little bit different. But for myself, I use this every single morning. I put it into my coffee. Your body's also going to absorb the liquid a little bit better also.
Mm.
So think of vitamins when there's something that's liposomal, your body absorbs it better and absorbs a higher percentage of it than just a regular vitamin or supplement that you're taking. So Also, sometimes the sweeteners can counteract the absorption of the minerals as well. So keep that in mind. When your body has too much sugar, and it's just an accumulation of things that you've consumed throughout the day, it can accumulate and act as a toxin in the body. Your body is going to try to get rid of that toxin first. And in the meantime, it's not going to properly absorb the other nutrients as well. So keep that in mind. You want to try to eliminate sugars and things as much as you can. I don't mean go sugar free. Like I said, my family definitely consumes sugar, but we tend to overdo it as a culture on the consumption of sugar.
Yeah.
My way of dealing with sugar is if I can avoid it, I do. Natural sugar is a whole different animal.
Except actually, Alina, maybe we talk about that because natural sugars can also cause all these other things if you overconsume them. Let's dive into the
Right.
sugar, artificial sugar arena just for a minute. I feel like there's so many directions we could go, but I think that we're hitting on the biggest and best nutrition topics here in the big. And then I would like to get really specific on what do you like? I'd like to talk to you about liquid IV and collagen and these various categories of supplements that I personally take, and I'd like to hear what you think on different things like that too.
Sure.
Let's talk
Um,
about the sugars first.
okay. So I know there is a lot of debate on this, and I was definitely confused on this when I started first going into my health journey of, but how can fruit be bad for me? How can, all of these naturally sourced sugars, how can anything found in sugar in nature be bad for me? And it's not that it's bad for you. It is, I do recommend eating fruit, but it depends on what's going on with your health at the moment. There are certain people who I do recommend we stay off even fruit. Even I saw maple syrup in the comments, which is a great natural sweetener unless you're dealing with insulin issues, you have insulinemia, you have blood sugar imbalances. So there are certain things that might be going on with you where yes, for the time being, we are recommending you avoid all sugars, even those found in nature, even the maple syrup, even the fruits, and we're just focusing on healing the body. When there is a toxic overload in the body, and this can be from an accumulation of too much sugar throughout the years, of processed foods, of alcohol, of environmental toxins, heavy metals, fluoride in our water, all of these things that we're exposed to. Your body can only detox and eliminate so much. A lot of it actually gets accumulated in the body. So, if this is something that might be going on with someone and we're seeing high levels of insulin, we're seeing blood sugar imbalances, we're seeing gut dysbiosis, yes, I do recommend that we cut off all sugar sources, including fruit, and then we can always add those back. But another thing that can happen with fruit is that it can ferment in the gut also. So if someone has an intestinal, they might have SIBO, they might not, they might just have symptoms of SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. When someone has this, they have a lot of feelings of being gassy, bloating. They don't do well with certain foods that might be good for them, like high histamine foods, like avocados, for example. They don't feel well. This is a signal that there is just too much sugar in the body that's become a toxin and is feeding that bad bacteria. In this case, we will cut off all the sugar and then be able to introduce it. Um, so segueing into your collagen question actually is
Okay.
perfect because when there's too much sugar in the body, your body is not going to produce collagen. And collagen is something that your body is very stubborn and wants to produce on its own. It likes producing its own collagen. Taking those supplements are great. I take them, I recommend them, but your body absorbs a very small percentage of that collagen that you're putting into your protein shakes or coffee. It's not doing any harm. Still continue taking it. You're still going to absorb a little bit of it, but most of it is not being absorbed because your body likes producing its own collagen. The number one reason your body doesn't produce enough collagen is because of toxic overload, usually by too much processed foods and sugar and stress, things that are going on in the body. So when there's too much sugar. And we see this in the face, right? You know it. Everyone knows it. The audience knows it. When you've been eating poorly, you can see it in your face. Your face is puffy.
Really?
You have bags under your eyes. Your skin doesn't look well. You have acne that might come up. Your face shows it. And so this is a sign that your body is not producing collagen because there's a toxic overload from whatever it is. And I always want to say, I'm never here to make anyone feel bad or seem unrealistic. I don't eat perfectly. My family does not eat perfectly. I'm just sharing what can go on in the body. That being said, we are all human beings and we all do the best we can. So keep that in mind.
So I wanted to add two things. So I've heard with collagen, you have to eat it within an hour of eating protein because it's only a piece of the protein. It needs it's like a ladder and it needs a ring from the protein to attach to for the collagen to take effect. So if you are taking a collagen without taking a protein, then you aren't getting the benefits of the collagen. So I
I
wanted to,
actually, yeah, haven't heard that before, but I appreciate
okay.
that tip. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to add that. I also, through my study with Ayurveda, learned that you should never eat fruit with any other food
Yeah.
because it will, no matter what, and no matter how healthy your gut is, there will be some fermentation that goes on. So fruit is technically supposed to be eaten separate.
Yeah.
I don't do that
So
either, so it's
exactly.
okay.
Exactly. There should always be that space between you having your meal and you having fruit as well. I saw Dana said artificial sugar is bad, right? In the comments. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely we want to avoid
Well,
those
let's talk
artificial
about,
sugars.
I would like to talk about some specific brands if we can do that and if you know
Sure.
about them. One of the things I do regularly take is the Sweet Drop Stevia, and I will
Okay.
only sweeten with that. What are your thoughts on the Sweet Drop Stevia?
Um, so stevia was something that I used in the beginning also, and it's derived from a plant. The problem with stevia or any of these sweeteners is that we don't know how they're sourced, and so we don't know what happens to them in the processing. Um, Stevia comes from the stevia plant, and they extract the steviol glycosides from that, and that is the sweetener from it. How that gets processed, does anything else happen to it? Does it get bleached? Are there anything added to it? Any solvents? We don't know. And so we are seeing more people have reactions to stevia, and also studies done on mice showed that it was creating dysbiosis in the gut when they were given stevia over long periods of time. So stevia, just like anything, is fine to use in moderation, but you never want to replace your sugar addiction with a stevia addiction or another addiction. You want to figure out, why am I so addicted to this? So that's really where it comes into play. Having it from time to time is fine. Again, it's sourced from a plant, same with maple syrup, same with any of those, and having it in smaller amounts. But keep in mind, am I addicted to this stevia? Am I
No,
having this,
I'm
because that
not
happened to
addicted.
me with, yeah, some of the Zevia drinks. I found myself
Oh.
having it once in a while. It started off, and then before I knew it, my body was, I couldn't wake up in the morning and have
But
a
yeah, those
Zevia.
also have like xylitol, it's not xylitol, but it's one of the etols, one of the sugar alcohols in that one. And my body was like, oh, no. I like really liked the taste of it and wanted it, but I did not feel well after. It might have been
Yeah.
erythritol.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if it has erythritol, but erythritol does cause a laxative effect in a lot of people. So it might.
Oh,
And again, they're fine to use from time to time.
yeah.
But are you treating your sugar addiction with a stevia addiction now, where instead of having Coke, you're having 3, 4 cans of a
I think
Zevia or
right.
something? That's something to pay attention to. But having it once in a while is fine. But again, in rats, there were studies done that it did start causing dysbiosis when they were given it every single day.
Uh-huh. Good to know. So don't OD on any of these artificial sugars. I actually, when I guess saccharin was out and were talking about it linked to cancer,
Yeah.
there was one doctor that said, and this was when I was in that area of nutrition, when doctors said, well, it'll be fine now because now there's a lot of different options for artificial sugars, so people aren't over consuming one.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of a right answer, but still kind of right. It's like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, and
Come
we
on,
tend to
dude.
move further and further away from even natural sugar. If you're having just a little bit of cooking with like a natural cane sugar or something, baking with your family, as opposed to trying to use, a stevia, an allulose, a monk fruit, or whatever it is, those are all great. But again, always refer back to just finding things in nature and refer back to that, unless, as we said, a little bit ago, unless there is a specific health issue you're trying to address. Someone who has blood sugar concerns, their glucose levels are kind of spiking and crashing. Yeah, they tend to do better with the allulose and stevia. It controls their blood sugar levels a little bit better. So certain things, I would say there isn't general advice that applies to everyone. It's about what's going on with your body and your health at that time.
Mm-hmm. No, these are absolutely great. I love them so much. It makes me go, okay, I just love talking nutrition.
Yeah, same.
So,
I geek out on bacterial strains actually. I'm fascinated by bacteria. It's just like these
uh-huh.
little soldiers in our body that affect our brain, how we think,
I
our
know.
attention. Like you said, the
Fascinating.
noise in your mind, it's all tied back to bacteria that's actually controlling us. It's
And and let me
fascinating.
just add this for the audience. From a frequency standpoint, it all makes sense. Like you would, if you're trying to hide or numb out, you would have some food addictions, right?
Yeah.
And that works on both an emotional level, and then it can go in your gut and affect your gut on a gut level that brings greater awareness to you to create a change. I really
Yeah.
feel like it's like inside out, outside in so many cases. And this
Yeah,
is one of
exactly.
those things that maybe you address it from the inside out because it's a little bit easier to change your gut health with probiotics and eating better food than it might be to actually say, you know, I'm not I'm not eating any sugar, right?
Yeah.
And to actually, I'm no longer going to hide, it's easier for you to start, being able to feel better from within instead of going, and then you will feel like you no longer need to hide. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
I
to
kind of was
expand
like
on that,
found in a circle in that one.
yeah, to expand on that, I'm not eating any sugar, I'm giving up carbs, I'm all of those things. People tend to overdo it, and there's a very fine line between you giving up sugar or you practicing fasting for a while to heal versus you just starving your body and now being protein deficient, nutrient deficient. And we see this happen often because you start feeling good when you're fasting, you start feeling good when you've cut out some of the sugars, but your body does like using simple carbs as an energy source. So your brain either uses ketones or glucose as an energy source, and glucose comes from the carbs that we consume. It can be sugar, but the breads, the rice, the pasta, the grains, the fruits and vegetables turns into glucose in the body, and your brain likes using that as a fuel source. It can use ketones also, but I refer to it kind of as a backup generator. It's great
Mhm.
to use for a while, but you don't want to deprive your body and never give it carbs again. I'm never having sugar again. I'm never having this. You will lead to some hormonal imbalances, and we do see this. People tend to overdo it, and I'm like, you're no longer fasting. You're just starving yourself at this point. There's a very big
Right?
difference.
And then
So,
your body's actually going to start creating coping mechanisms with that starving
and putting on
condition.
weight.
Yeah.
Putting on
Yeah.
weight because now your body thinks that it's in a state of stress because your body says, whoa, what's going on? We haven't had a solid meal in quite some time. Are we hibernating and preparing for an attack? Let me just hold on to every food that comes in because
Right.
I don't know when my next meal is going to come in. We're in a time of scarcity. That's what your body thinks. So
Right.
it is important to have that flexibility and that variation. You don't want to be very dogmatic with any approach that you take.
Yeah. Fabulous. I would like to go ahead and talk a little bit about your special offer. And then we can take just a couple more questions. I still wanted to go through some other supplements, but maybe we
Oh,
have
okay.
you
Yeah, I
back
was
and
about
do
to
some more of
answer a
those.
question and I'm like, wait, I don't want to go off.
Go ahead. You can answer it from
The
Valentina.
question that I saw that said kimchi fermented foods good. It's
Mm,
good. It's great for the gut unless you have a high histamine issue. So
mm,
someone that does have that bacterial overgrowth is not going to respond well to high histamine foods like kimchi and the fermented foods because they already have too much fermentation going on in their gut. So
mhm.
uh, for that person that already has fermentation, if you notice you're gassy often, maybe foul smelling breath, maybe you have some overgrowth issues going on, even constipation, I would recommend maybe staying off the fermented foods for a little bit. Let's work on healing the gut, and then adding them back is wonderful because they do have those naturally occurring probiotics. You're correct. But again, it can further the fermentation that's already going on. So not if someone has that fermentation issue already going on in the body.
And that would also include like kefirs and kombucha and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So those are also going to be fermented products for just for some people who might not know. I was trying to explain kombucha over the weekend actually to someone, but she had limited English. So it was really hard for me to
Oh
explain.
boy.
In English I can explain it just fine, but in Armenian it was really hard for me to explain what kombucha was. But again, it's a fermented product. So if you already have that fermentation going on, you want to avoid those for the time being, heal, and then you can always add them back in.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you. All right, I want to share her special offer because I feel like those of you that really feel like you want to take this journey, this might now be the time. Um, and maybe we can even come January when everyone's into like, I really am going to do that this year. We'll even keep this offer open through that if that's okay with you, Alina.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go through this program and how it works and just take us through every point that it has here.
Yeah, so this is the Happier Belly Gut Reset program, and I created this program for you to have a better idea of what's going on in your gut. So going back to a lot of the questions that we saw here in the panel in the chat, a lot of people just are given general information like, do I take probiotics every day? Should I continue eating kimchi? I heard that's really good for the gut. But it depends on your specific gut. So in my program, you actually will take a gut type quiz, and that will give you a gut type result. And based on that, I have different protocols and foods to eat, foods to avoid, supplements to take, supplements to avoid, and different things you can do based on your gut type. So that's something that's really important. And I incorporated that to make sure that people know kind of there isn't a general diet or protocol or anything for anyone because people are going through different things. There are no two gut microbiomes that are the same. What you have in your gut is not the same as your kids or your spouses. They're all different. We all each have our own kind of garden and we need to tend to it differently. So what works for some person doesn't work for that person. In the program, you will take that gut type quiz, figure out your gut, and then from there are different protocols, supplements, foods to take, foods to avoid, exercises to do, also, and a different approach for that. So these are all in there for you. You have that access anytime you want to access it. It is a self-paced program, so you can complete it all and binge watch the videos and go through the program, or you can space it out and do it however you'd like when you have time. But it's all there for you. There's also a community tab option where you can ask questions once you're in the program. If there's specific things that you have a question on, I'm always happy to answer. My goal is for you to just have a better idea of what's going on in your body. So I'm always happy to help and answer questions and help guide you as best as I can.
And you guys, you get $100 off. So it's
Yeah.
$297, which is exciting. Thank you for that, Alina. Now, how is this delivered? Is this in a video format, an audio format, every format? PDF form?
Yeah, so there are some videos, there's text, there are some downloads, some PDFs. You can also, I also have trackers in there that you can print out or have on your desktop to keep that food journal, to keep that stress journal, those things that we talked about. I have those downloads in there so you can just use those as tools to figure out kind of what's going on with you.
Fabulous.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
saw a comment here, Valentina, you nailed it. She said, when I was younger, we did not have all these processed garbage foods, and we were smaller and healthier. And now with all this garbage added to our foods, we are all sick and bloated and have all these issues. And that is exactly what's going on in our society, where we have distanced ourselves so much from eating real foods, eating those soups, those liquid-based diets, those broths that we grew up eating, that our grandparents cooked for us, and we're just eating dry food all the time. So there's no surprise that we're having this increase of people being constipated all the time and having these digestive issues because we're just eating this dry, starchy food. We're always on the go. We're scarfing down food. So most people don't know that digestion actually first begins with your eyes and your nose. When you smell food and you see food, it signals to your brain to start increasing hydrochloric acid, HCl, in the gut to break down the food you're about to eat. But imagine when you don't look at it, you don't smell it, you're just sitting at your desk, maybe doing work, you're on the go, you're taking your kids to baseball practice, whatever it is, and you're scarfing down food. Your brain never got that signal that, oh, we're eating, we're just swallowing chunks of food. There's also, your saliva also has enzymes that break down food, but most people just chew big chunks because they're in a rush. This goes
Yeah.
into your body and your gut is not able to digest all of that because it didn't go through the different checklists that it needs in order to digest properly. So exactly, going back to eating real food, but also slowing down. We're in a unfortunately very rushed society. So just being mindful of those things. Go back to the basics. We don't need to overcomplicate things. Don't worry about this diet, this trend. Simplify your foods, stick to real foods, focus on sitting there with your meals, taking that time to really rest and digest, allowing your digestive system to rest also. When we eat first thing in the morning and we eat late at night, you never gave your digestive system enough time to properly break down and digest that food. So just keep that in mind. It needs to rest, be able to be strong enough for the next day. It's kind of like an employee. Don't overwork your employee, right? Your body is your employee. If you're like, I need you on the go, 7 a.m., we're having coffee with some creamer in there. And then late at night, I still need you to be working because we're gonna have a bowl of cereal or some ice cream. And you're
Love
and you're
it.
like, we rested a little bit. We had exactly. Joe's like, we
I
rested a
know.
little bit, but not enough. Like maybe 7 hours, you got a break. But first thing in the morning, we're having that vanilla coffee creamer. You're on the go again. You're that employee eventually is going to get burnt out, right? Same thing that's
Mhm.
going on in your body. So make sure that you're giving that employee
I
enough
love
time to just rest, connect with nature, sit outside, slow down, let that employee rest because it will make that employee stronger. So I love
I
giving
love
analogies to help
Oh, I
simplify.
love it so much. It was funny. So I learned traditional nutrition through school, and they do talk about how it's really important to smell first, like that starts up the juices,
Yeah,
and then taste, like actually taste your food, because all the enzymes from your saliva then comes to start breaking down the food,
yeah,
and then it's ready to go on down. And it was, and when you were talking about that, I was sharing, I was also thinking, then I went to Ayurveda school for just a very short term, and until I knew it wasn't for me. But they even added the component of you should always pray over your food first and
yeah,
then smell your food and then
yeah,
taste your food. And they're even like want you to feel it on your lips and the whole consumption of it. And we
yeah,
have, like, in this reality, we have just totally bypassed that, that I'm grateful that I even have food.
yeah.
Like, we're bypassing all past that and we're just gobbling.
Yeah, and it's really a downfall of our society that we do have that access to food at all times.
Mhm,
If
yeah.
if you're hungry and you don't have time to make something, within 30 minutes, you can have something at your door. And
Mhm.
you might even be eating it as you're watching TV. You're like, I just kind of want to sit in front of a TV and eat this. And so you're really bypassing exactly what you just talked about. We don't sit with our food. We don't pray over it. We don't talk about it. We don't even allow our digestive enzymes to properly produce and break down that food. And then we're wondering, why am I feeling bloated? Why do I have constipation? Well, your gut can only digest so much, and you just gave it chunks of this food without going through kind of like working in a plant or a factory, right? It has to go through those proper channels in order to have that end result that you want. Another tip that I will add is to go connect with nature every single day. Go sit outside, put your feet in the dirt, go hug a tree, garden if you have a garden, touch some plants, touch some leaves. Also, think of how disconnected we are from nature in today's society. I mean, think of the last time that you heard of your friends, your family, your coworkers taking time to sit outside in nature, even 10 minutes a day. We don't do that. We wake up under blue light, we go to sleep under blue light, where we're constantly surrounded by blue light and EMFs. And for us to even go outside and just sit outside is something that you have to remember to do. But this actually is going to help your digestion. It's going to help strengthen your gut also. So it doesn't have to be a long time. Most of the time when I say this, people say, I don't have time to do that, but you do have time to do that. Think of how much time you spent just scrolling on social media. Put the phone down 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long time. Set a timer 5 minutes. Don't go with your phone. Just go sit out in nature, let the sun hit your face, touch some soil, touch the grass, touch some leaves, and allow your body to rest a little bit. Give that employee a little bit of a break. It needs that break throughout the day also.
Yeah. I love this, love this. And just a reminder, you guys, the full moon is coming. It should mostly be out tonight and tomorrow night. I think technically it's supposed to be tomorrow night, but I'm at the beach, so I'm gonna watch it tonight.
Huh.
So you have a reason. That's all I had to say. Go
Yeah.
out and enjoy the world.
And
Oh,
not
this is
to
beautiful. I really felt like we didn't ever connect actually at blocks, but I
I
knew of
know.
you. And and then as I was watching my other friends connect with you, I was like, oh my gosh, she's like so knowledgeable on this topic. We
Thank
really
you.
need to have her on. I'm so glad we chose to have you on because you were absolutely phenomenal. And I feel like you're going to be our nutrition and gut health specialist of choice
I would love that.
from here on out.
Thank you. I would
Adore
love
you.
that. And it's so, just going back to intuition, it's just so amazing how when you do raise that frequency and you do raise your own vibration, how the universe puts people in your life who match that energy. And so I really feel like
Yeah.
just connecting with you and Lianka was because I felt I was ready and my energy was raised to that level, so it's honestly beautiful. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you, Elena. It's Elena or Alina?
Alina.
Alina. Okay, great. Sorry, I've been like mixing them up this
No,
entire
that's
my
okay.
thing. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to unpin you guys. I have just a couple announcements. And I want you to know the replay will be out. The link is in the chat. It will also be in the YouTube captioned feed. And check your newsletter if you are uh, interested. There will be a big button that says special offer under Alina's profile. And I think, and like I said, we'll probably put something out at the beginning of the year to remind you if you really want to leap into this. All right, Alina, thank you.
Thank you. It was great.
You guys, I just want to let you know that Lianka and I have been invited on this new summit called Bringing Magic Down to Earth. It's in the newsletter. I wanted to just make you aware of it and say it out publicly. So check the newsletter for that. And then on Sunday, I'm actually on a live interview where she's just opening up the call for me to present. So I've chosen to present a 20-minute short hypnotherapy session for you guys that are ready to work on your judgment with your family gatherings for the holidays. So if you're interested in doing that live with me, look for a little link that says Helena Della Rosa in the newsletter. Just wanted to make you guys aware of that. I'm going to record that, and I will probably put that out in the shop for my hypnotherapy audios. So I hope that you can join me. That would be on Sunday around 11 Central, 9 a.m. Pacific. The last thing I just wanted to tell you is we are putting together a very, very special Black Friday offer. I just want to make sure that you're looking for it. It should be out a week before actual Black Friday. So if you have been wanting a special offer but felt like maybe now's not the time, maybe go back and look at those because we have a really, really big deal. And those of you in the lounge are going to have even a bigger deal. So I just want to let you know that that was out there. And that's, I think, all the announcements for today. We will be back with me, Jenna Leonka. And we will be back next Tuesday. You guys have an amazing weekend. Check out that full moon